Good morning, gardening friends. It's now July 20th, a little after 11. I haven't really had a whole lot to show you lately. Things have been kind of slowly developing, but wanted to give you an update, and I think I'm going to try a project this weekend since I finally freed up a little bit of time. Well, the first thing I want to show you is this is the tomato plant the way you're used to seeing it. There's a couple of little tomatoes on there. It doesn't look like much, but let's take a look outside. Notice something a little different. All the tomatoes seem to be growing on the outside. I guess the screening material that I used to try and keep some of the bugs out, or whatever my original intentions were. I mean, part of it is I built some frames to support things, but the screening material I put on doesn't seem to be so good for the tomatoes. They seem to really like it outside. So that's a lesson learned, and I'll have to think as I plant my next tomato plant how to work with that. I'll either have to remove the screening material or move the plants over where they're not hindered by the screening material. Let's go back inside. So that was the early girl, and now you're looking at the yellow pear. There really isn't a lot of, there are some tomatoes on the plant. I don't know if it's being shaded by the early girl or what, but that's what that's looking like right now. Actually, now that I look at it, there's quite a few on there. They just need to grow and get bigger so you can actually see them, because tomatoes are green until they turn color, right? Anyway, that's that. And here's the other side of that big planter. We've got the Swiss chard growing in the back. We've got some to pop, and I don't know if you can see it too well, but right about here I got one more growing, and actually I forget what that is right now, but I'll put it up in text there in a second. So that's the big planter, and there's the medium-sized planter, and it doesn't look so spectacular on the bottom, but up a little. There we go. You can kind of see where it's actually picking up a bit. Again, the screening material may be hindering it, but it also gives it something to climb on. So again, I got to figure that out. I don't think I'm going to destroy any of my plants now. This will all be lessons for next year. That's the medium planter. Now we got all the small planters, and there's no progress on the mint, which was planted on the 6th, and it's now the 20th. I'm working from right to left here. The oregano, I thought I had seen one little shoot come up, but I don't see anything there. The German chamomile, as I work my way over the third one now. This planter here is the German chamomile. I don't see anything in there, but in the unknown basil I finally have one little sprout right there. So I'm hoping that's not just some volunteer. Working our way even further over, we've got the echinacea, which never really seems to sprout for me. The Pac-Man broccoli is doing nicely. I've got several sprouts right up along here. And yes, your eyes are not deceiving you, or no, your eyes are not deceiving you. Well, you get what I'm trying to say. The Swiss chard is wilted. I haven't watered yet today. Once I do, it'll perk up. And today is actually fertilizer and soaking day. I put fertilizer and I give them a heavy watering that allows them to get the nutrients they need, and gives them the water. And usually when I do the heavy watering, I don't have to water for a few more days, but this is Southern California. We do get quite a bit of heat. Then we have the flower section of the patio garden. The morning glory is doing nicely. On the left, that's the blue morning glory. I can see a bud right here that's gonna probably pop in a couple of days. I've actually got a couple stills I shot before, so I'll insert one here. And if you look real carefully on the right, you'll see this is the red morning glory. I've got one that's started to pop, and it looks like a weed here. And as far as the snapdragon, I'm not getting anything but weeds. I'm going to leave that there for a minute just to make sure that's actually not the snapdragon, but I don't think it is. I've been getting a lot of this sort of grass stuff showing up as weeds. So that's it for the patio garden. The big planters are doing nicely, although I'm getting some odd colors in the leaves. I'm not sure what that's about. It looks like what's growing the best is the sunflowers, and I'm actually considering a bird project. That's part of my plan for the weekend, and more on that in a little bit. But I'm hoping that the birds will actually come along and get those grasshoppers. Also, apparently there are some birds that I can attract to the garden that might actually eat aphids. So if I can get the right size boxes built and get the birds to come in, then I might be able to control my bug population around here. Unfortunately, on the big ones, the artichokes, which was main reason why I started building all of this and redoing these boxes and relocating them and everything else, they just don't seem to be growing much. They're still alive, but they're not growing. So I don't know if it's a question of not enough sun, too much heat, or it's just simply the wrong time of year. You can kind of see it back. It's along the back, in the middle, and it's just not growing. So, but I do have, it looks like the tarragon and the sunflowers are doing nicely, so I won't complain if I get a bunch of sunflowers. Also, some of the birds like sunflower seeds, so I may have a good source for seeds. So that's not a bad thing. Let's take a look around. Some of the hanging planters are looking a little sickly. I've tried to control the cabbage worms, and I think I've done a fairly good job of that. I haven't seen one in a couple of weeks now, but it's just going to take time. I planted some more seeds in the hanging planters that are doing worse, and it's going to take them time to germinate and pop up and over, so we'll see what happens with that. But this is not all bad. The hanging planters along the back of the building are doing a lot better, and they actually, I think, had more cabbage worms than the ones on the other side, but you can see I've got flowers popping back in, and so I'm just happy that they're still alive. Of course, that second one keeps growing down into that prickly plant there. Let me see if I can't zoom in for you there. I don't know if it's getting more sun or what, but that's what's happening with that. Then we have the arbor. Now, of course, I'm not expecting these climbing plants to climb up and over the arbor in 2 weeks. So you can't really see much from this view, but you can still see the arbor. Let me get in a little closer. In the big pot here, we've got something in the morning glory family. It's either a red or a blue, or it's the moonflower. I don't think I actually planted red or blue in there. I'll have to go back and check. The moonflower, or whatever that one is, it's starting to climb. Was just long enough that I kind of stuck it through the lattice just to encourage it to climb. I did that probably about a week ago, and I can see where it's kind of wrapping around the back now, which is good. The more it climbs, the more sun it'll get, the faster it'll grow, so that's a good thing. And you can see there's something else growing in there. I'm not sure which variety that is because I don't recognize the leaf pattern. Actually, it looks a little bit like another morning glory type plant. And if I move down a little bit, I don't know how well you can see that with the sun there, but in the rectangular planters I got other stuff starting to grow, and it looks like one of them is getting just long enough it might start to climb. So in general, that's kind of what things are looking like. You can look at the whole rectangular planter and see that there's not a whole lot growing in there, but what is growing is starting to grow well. So that's it for this part. And in the north courtyard, we've got the 4 plants growing nicely. We've cleaned up some of the dead leaves. They're doing well. Let's get a little closer. And you can see they've got quite a few plants starting to grow in that one pot there, and those are all climbing variety. In fact, it's pretty much the same mix I used over by the arbor. So we'll see how well they do with the sort of dappled sun here. They seem to be doing nicely. I like that really spiky one. I'm wondering which one that is. And I've got that whole ladder that I built, so I'm going to be happy to see them climb up there. Of course, all of this takes time. No plant grows that well. There are plants that grow quickly, bamboo, but I'm just enjoying watching this all kind of grow. It just hasn't been a whole lot to tell you over and over, so that's why it's been a couple of weeks. I think that's it for the plant update. Okay, one more. I don't talk a whole lot about my broom corn because it was just something that I just really enjoyed planting before. It looks a lot like corn in the way the leaves are kind of waving around there, but you can see obviously those aren't stalks of corn. Well, they're getting tall. I've been pulling off some brown leaves and giving it fertilizer, and it's doing nicely. So I think I'll wrap the planting with this, and if you check the channel, you'll see my building project soon.